Hello and welcome to NewsClick. This week we have seen revelations of deep involvement of candidates, of money power in using the media for electoral purposes, particularly in the Maharashtra elections. But there has also been commentary that this is not a new phenomenon but has been around for some time. To discuss the implications of this, we have with us veteran journalist Seema Mustafa. Seema, this thing which has now come to the surface is obviously not something new, but has been around for some time. But are we witnessing this in a new, more powerful way than before?
Yeah, I think it's been around for a while in the sense that the journalists have been taking money and media houses have been selling news in different forms. But this has been very, very blatant. And I think it's really a turning point in media history, as it were, because you have media houses now accepting packages and of lakhs and crores. And we even have instances that when the political parties before an election have not offered them money, they've asked and demanded money. And if you refuse, then you know where you will be where that media is concerned.
But even this business of offering packages to individual candidates or individual personalities in public life has been there before as well. And some of the left parties in the last week have commented that they have witnessed this before in Andhra Pradesh and in other parts of the country.
Yes, I think to some extent, but Andhra Pradesh again in recent assembly elections and Lok Sabha elections. But in the manner in which it was done, where the Delhi media and the national media also got drawn in. You see, the regional media, you would always have it at levels of advertisements, give us extra advertisements, we give you so much more money, etc. But this time in the Lok Sabha polls, you had television channels, you had big media barons going to meet the Prime Minister for a bailout and for extra money, for which they have either survived or enriched their own coffers. We don't know where that money has gone. There is no accountability. And at the same time, the Congress or other parties went out, some of the major parties, went out and offered packages. And what was the package? Package was, say, 5 lakhs, 25 lakhs, 5 crores in terms of so many advertisements, in terms of so many write-ups, in terms of so many interviews. So you actually pledged to give them that much publicity, but not as publicity and advertisement,
but as so-called news.
As news.
So does this speak to us as much about money power, which of course it does, but also about new directions that the media itself is taking today? Greater commercialization of the media, a more open business orientation of the media than news orientation?
Yeah, you know, they say that it was the advent of television that did it. I would think that probably it hastened it. And it was going to happen anyway if our economic path had pursued the same course as it has. This whole globalization and of money and money becoming very easily available and the understanding of governments that they can have embedded journalists after the US made that term very fashionable, it has all led to this corruption and corrupted media. So it is really unfortunate that you find that everybody is now on a payroll, and people who you thought, or big houses who have enough money, media houses, are also on the payroll.
Some time back, one would have thought that this kind of practice would reflect black money in circulation. But I think one of the new features of this is all this is taking place now quite openly as part of quote-unquote legitimate business practice. And I believe that some candidates in their election returns of the money spent have actually declared the money that they have paid to media houses for these packages as part of legitimate expense. What do you think this tells us about the way in which money, power is getting used.
You know, there was a time when the big business houses owned media, right, and owned newspapers. But you had those people just running it, leaving it to the professional journalists to work and stay outside. That, to my mind, I mean, though I know it's not a good arrangement, was probably a better arrangement than what we have now, where we have a lot of the media people themselves becoming either businessmen or businessmen's sons and daughters becoming editors. And this kind of a terrible mix that has happened has all of them justifying TRP ratings, justifying the business element of news, mixing the element of news with business. And you know, that whole wall where the management was entirely different and we were, editorial was entirely different, has been completely broken down. And that is why you find that anything goes and everything goes. So the methods that you bring into business, you then also apply to news.
So is there room left for supposedly independent media houses? Is there still some room left for that kind of media practice, or are we witnessing a wholesale transition of media to an openly commercial, and one step further, not just commercial, but commercial interlinked with political interests, interlinked with business interests, and media being merely a handmaiden in that sense to service these clients?
I think there's as much room for independent media as there is for independent politicians, which is really saying not much, and not at all maybe, because here, just like it's so difficult and it costs so much money to fight an election, to set up a newspaper, to set up a television channel is exorbitant. Nobody, no independent journalist can even think of it, or a group of journalists can think of it, because they have to bring in the corporate. Once business, big business then dictates. So the vicious circle continues. So it's becoming, you find some absolutely brilliant journalists I've worked with in my life, who were excellent journalists. They've all opted out. Either they're doing something else, or they're just doing some columns, or they're working for foreign papers or channels, you know, just that hack stuff. And they're not there. They're not there influencing decisions, reporting the truth. And they have been replaced by a whole generation which has never been told what news is.
What kind of regulatory system, if at all, can one think of to at least partially remedy this situation, either in terms of legislation or in terms of regulatory reforms or the press council or what have you?
Well, you have to keep the government out of it, because whoever's in the government has misused and manhandled and used and manipulated the media the most. So you have to keep governments out of it. And then I think with whatever sane and sensible people are left, and groups that are left, or working journalists who are left, I think you have to really start that process, maybe start a media. The press council could have been very effective, but never really was. And it was always revolved around the person who they put up there as the chairman. So you had a good chairman, you had a little bit done. If you didn't have a good chairman, like, it just goes to seed. Maybe I was thinking, and this is thinking out loud, is that maybe you have a media commission set up by journalists of eminent persons whose integrity and honesty is beyond doubt, and we still fortunately have some of them left in this country from different walks of life. And then that media commission sits periodically, and maybe it is supported by various organizations. We've got a lot of NGOs also doing media watch, media work. Get them all in for the secretarial services. And then appeals go to this media commission. And the media itself, media commission rules on ethics, gives strictures. And because of the quality of the people involved in it, the moral responsibility of the media is at least brought into focus. This is not to say that the big media is going to listen every time, but it is to shame them at least.
Seema, thank you very much.